Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone has been having a great week out there so far. We have a lot to go over in this morning's video, so thank you for joining me as we do so. We're going to break down this winter storm that is on the way for the south. We'll talk about the south central U.S. first, the southern plains, and then we'll go over into the southeast, and we'll speak a little bit about the mid-Atlantic and the northeast also, because I do think the confidence definitely significantly drops off as we get into that area of the country, like the Northeast. Is this going to turn into a big winter storm for you guys? We're not quite sure, but the confidence is pretty high for the South Central U.S. and areas of the Southeast. So the first thing we'll go over is the latest watches and warnings, because we do have winter storm watches up for areas of the Southern Plains, and then we'll compare all model guidance for each geographical area. We'll talk about the ensemble guidance as far as ice and snow. We'll break down this model guidance for you folks, and then we'll kind of nerd out with you folks and just explain what's driving this. And this is very complex, even difficult for me to fully understand. I'll be completely honest with you folks, but the main pieces are there. You can see them well. It's just putting them all together to create I would say a winter storm that could happen for your neck of the woods. It's going to be incredibly difficult depending on where you live. So we're going to break it all down for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it. And it gives others an opportunity to pray over it also. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So we'll start off by speaking on the latest watches. If you live in this bluish shade of color here in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and this is North Texas, you have a winter storm watch. That tells you confidence is starting to increase. I mean, it's only Tuesday. This storm is really going to start over the next, I would say, 48 hours or so. So confidence is already pretty high about 2 days out that we have a winter storm heading for these areas. Now, this could upgrade to a winter weather advisory, or it could upgrade to a winter storm warning. Both are considered upgrades. People forget that if you go from a winter storm watch to a winter weather advisory, you think, that's not an upgrade. It is. Technically, it is. So right now, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you guys have winter storm watches. A little bit of south, a little bit west also, and definitely northeast. The confidence, I think, increases as you get north and really northeast and really even east of Dallas. And then this goes all the way up into the Little Rock area and then all the way into southeast portions of Oklahoma. Not quite Oklahoma City or Tulsa. You're still a few counties away from that. But Shreveport, you guys have winter storm watches. So we've been speaking on this for days. It seems like over a week. And here we are right up on it. You guys have winter storm watches. Now, if we zoom out, there's no winter storm watches further east. Of course, this gets further away from the actual storm. So if we get any winter storm watches, which we will, for like Memphis, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, northern Georgia, even in the South Carolina, North Carolina, it'll happen over the next 24 hours most likely. So this is the latest. So you're waking up with winter weather alerts. You know it's game on. Something is on the way. So let's break down the latest GFS run from this morning, and hopefully, and I think we'll have the latest morning Euro run, which has been awesome. It seems like when we were breaking down the hurricanes in the tropics, we were missing model data. It dropped like an hour after I dropped the video. We have been dead on in these videos, so it's been great to see. So latest GFS, this is starting off for tomorrow evening. So let's go on and move it into, this is getting into Thursday morning. So if you're confused about time frames, I know this is kind of small, especially if you're watching on your phone. Maybe if you're watching on TV, a little bit bigger. But look up here. It says 7 a.m., so back it up an hour. This is Central Time. And I would really just focus on the actual day. So this is Thursday, January 9th here in the next 48 hours. So the pink you see on your screen, that's freezing rain. The green rain, the sleets is orange, and then blue is snow. So we got some winter weather breaking out across areas of Texas and Oklahoma, and then it really starts to blossom as we get into Thursday afternoon. So the Dallas-Fort Worth area, for example, is like right in here. And, you can see Oklahoma. This is all snow. The snow's starting to move into Little Rock, which is right into here. Shreveport getting a wintry mix, and we continue to progress this forward. Now, the thing that I'm watching, and this is not going to be great news for Dallas, but that doesn't mean that this can't change, is the fact that it looks like you're starting to flirt with a lot more warm air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So, for example, this run of the GFS tries to switch you guys to rain. And I know I can hear it now if you're tuning in from Dallas, like, dude, are you serious? And I don't blame you. That's very frustrating. But it could trend back the other way. So just hold tight. And this is just the GFS, not all model guidance. So we got freezing rain breaking out across southern Arkansas. That freezing rain line is like right up on Little Rock, but all snow at this point. Snowing all the way back to Oklahoma City. Winter storm watches could definitely be extended further northwest into Tulsa, Oklahoma City. And we keep this going, and cold air catches up, and you switch to what looks like all snow for like the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we're getting into the wee hours of the morning, Friday morning. All rain on this particular run for Louisiana. Look at this winter weather starting to move into northern Mississippi, western Tennessee. We got snow getting all the way up to Springfield, Missouri, and then snow's getting all the way up to southeast Kansas, and we keep this going. And look, this is like Friday morning. It's Friday like mid-morning. It is snowing like crazy in Little Rock, snowing all the way back here to Dallas, snowing in Tulsa, Oklahoma City. It is coming down in Memphis at this point, the Boot Hill, Missouri, northern Mississippi. This is all heavy, wet snow, all rain for southern Mississippi, and I would say most of the state of Louisiana. But you keep this going, we progress this forward. Still snowing, getting into Friday afternoon, getting into Friday evening, and by the time we get into the overnight hours of Friday, this storm is done, waking up Friday morning to a winter wonderland for certain areas. So that's the latest GFS. Now let's look at the latest Euro, which we are in range. There's no point looking at the OOZ anymore. Let's just look at the O6Z. So this is fresh model data. This is data that I hadn't even seen yet. It's been kind of the same trend with that the last few days. So this is new to me. So as we're getting into Thursday morning, wintry mix, same thing with the GFS, breaking out the 9th, 2 days, 48 hours from now. So it's right upon us, pretty wild. Wintry mix breaking out across central and western sections of Texas. We continue to progress this forward. Now this wants to start off as all snow Thursday midday, or give or take a few to several hours into Thursday, into Dallas, and then it's getting some light snow into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and then we keep going here. Precipitation starts to get heavier, and you're starting to deal with mixing issues in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Just a couple counties north, it's all snow, slither of snow moving into Little Rock. It's all rain, at least right here for Louisiana. And I'll be honest, it looks like you're starting to deal with a little bit more warm air in this area of the country. Now, this could shift, but this is what I'm noticing. A lot of people are starting to notice it also. But this is the middle of the night, Thursday night into Friday morning. We got this axis of snow starting to move into Little Rock, and then here it comes. Cold air begins to crash down, so even if you have mixing issues, no doubt the back end of the storm will be all snow for the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we're getting into, say, Friday morning. And listen, keep in mind, if you're tuning in from this area, like the Dallas area, give or take, whatever you are, they put winter storm watches up for a reason. So they're confident a winter storm is on the way, at least increasing confidence. Texarkana, this is all snow. Shreveport, you're right on the fringe of just rain and winter weather. But this is a snowstorm up for the majority, I would say, of Arkansas. Look at the snow moving into Memphis Friday morning, and then it is coming down in northern Mississippi. Heavy snow. This brings heavy snow into Memphis, into Little Rock. It's wrapping up in Texas. And then this continues to progress forward into Tennessee, western Tennessee. And, it doesn't bring as heavy snow, I would say, up into Oklahoma, up into Missouri. Just brings some light snow. But even these light snowfall totals, folks, up here in these areas, it'll be very cold. It will have no reason not to accumulate, that's for sure. And then this wraps up and heads east. So the latest Euro ensemble, which I really think we only have the OOZ. So this is the only one we can look at here. Still a solid snowfall mean average. Remember, the Euro ensemble, for example, makes up 51 members, and then it puts them all together to create an average. So, if this amount of members, 25 show 5 inches of snow, 10 of them show 3 inches, and then I'm trying to get my basic elementary school math together, and then 25, 10, and then 15, or technically 16, shows like 8 inches of snow. It kind of combines it all together and creates an average or a mean. So you still got a 5 to 6 inch snowfall average in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The Texarkana area, right where Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas all kind of come together, especially a little bit north. You got this area in purple. It's over a 6 inch snowfall average, and that's starting to kind of creep into Little Rock. Memphis, a several inch snowfall average, and just check out northern sections of Mississippi. I mean, this is trending towards and I'm about to really break down the Southeast here in a second, but definitely trending towards heavier snow for some of these deep South states. I mean, several inch snowfall mean in northern Mississippi. And then Southeast Oklahoma, still a good bit. Oklahoma City to Tulsa, 1 to 2 inch snowfall mean. So you kind of compare that with the GFS ensemble. What does it show? Well, the axis of heavier snow is definitely further north, like significantly. For example, on the latest GFS ensemble, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it only has like a inch and a half to 2.5 inch snowfall. I mean, but it's more for you folks in like Oklahoma, and then even into Missouri. You got a 2 to 4 inch snowfall average to Boot Hill, Missouri, and then it brings the heavier snow, I would say, further north in Arkansas. You start to deal with mixing issues down here, and remember, some of this will fall in the form of some ice, some sleet on the southern areas of the heaviest snow. So it just kind of bumps everything up further north. That is, I mean, like I said, you compare that with the Euro ensemble, it's a pretty big difference in a very short amount of time. I mean, that's a substantial difference. So it's kind of a battle right now. One thing we have to watch is if the 06Z Euro ensemble shifts north or south or kind of remains steady. Now, we look at individual model runs, and this is the OOZ. So let's look at the latest, say, this is the OOZ. Let's look at the latest 06Z. So it remains pretty solid. In fact, the latest 06Z increases snowfall for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that's good news because this is the latest data. If you're a snow weather fan, I'll say good news, but you know what I'm saying. But several inches of snow shows up for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Remember, this stuff is not a forecast. When I start showing you the graphics from the National Weather Service, that's when you can say, all right, Mitch said it's a forecast. Really, it's not me. It's the folks and the experts, meteorologists at the National Weather Service saying it. But when I start showing you these graphics from the National Weather Service, that's when you know that it's game on. I mean, those are actual forecasts. This is just model data, kind of comparing everything. But it really hits Texarkana hard, southeast Oklahoma, into areas of Arkansas. We get a little bit further to the east. Really crushes Little Rock Point south with over a half a foot of snow to almost 10 inches. It wants to put a swath of 6 to 8 inches of snow in northern Mississippi, drops 7 inches of snow on Memphis. I can't mention every town, guys, but I mean, look, we're even starting to creep into Alabama now. I mean, it wants to dump like 8 inches of snow on Florence, Alabama. We'll talk more on that here in a second. But pretty wild stuff. So, yeah, and you look at the latest GFS, it puts the heaviest snow north of Dallas, but still gives you guys accumulating snow. It's pretty obvious that the GFS is just further north. Really brings the axis of heavier snow into Oklahoma. Wants to put 4 to 5 inches of snow from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. Southeastern Oklahoma gets hit hard with over a half a foot of snow. And then we look at, say, Arkansas, and it's just a little bit further north. For example, it puts the heaviest snow in the GFS in central Arkansas, and the Euro more so like south central Arkansas. Still gives Memphis like 8 inches of snow, and still hits northern Mississippi pretty hard, and gets into western areas of Tennessee with anywhere from like 4 to 8 inches of snow. And then look at southern sections of Illinois and Missouri. A lot of snow in these areas. So what about ice? Well, it's actually trended down. Looks like it's just in this area trending more so to a snow or rain type deal, but I can promise you're going to get some sleet and ice, freezing rain in between that rain and snow line also. And this just a little bit of a signal. That's nothing crazy, but there is some areas that are showing over 1/10 of an inch of ice. So, all right, let's switch it to my folks in the southeast, and I know I have a lot of people tuning in from this area, so let's see what we got. What are we waking up to this morning? We went to bed with pretty solid trends for winter weather fans. What are we waking up to? So let's start it off. This is around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning. We got snow starting to move into Nashville, Tennessee. We move into the sun's coming up at this point. Technically, you won't see the sun if there's clouds and snow, but you get what I'm saying. Sunrise here. Heavy snow, not only moving into Huntsville, Florence, the Cumberland Plateau, Atlanta, but it's also moving into, say, Birmingham. Birmingham's right into here in kind of north central Alabama. Look at the snow moving into Atlanta. You move this another frame. This is starting to get into mid-morning Friday. Look at the heavy snow in northern Alabama, the entire northern half of Alabama. Heavy snow is starting to pick up in intensity across Tennessee. Look at the blue. Look at the blue for my folks in central South Carolina. That's snow moving in. I mean, from Columbia to Florence, up to Charlotte, the Greenville, Spartanburg area. And when we get closer to some of these mesoscale models, I'm going to talk about this area right here a lot more. And I'll talk about what it means. No point in getting super detailed in it right now, but it's something called a frontogenesis band. And we call it a front end thumping of snow before you deal with mixing issues, but it can overachieve at the front end with heavy snow. We'll talk about it more when we start to get in some of these short range models. But we continue to move. I mean, one would argue that's still all snow in Columbia. It is snowing like crazy, and this is like Friday afternoon. What a wonderful day of the week for a winter storm to move in, by the way. I mean, I'm just saying, Friday, man, that is phenomenal. Maybe Saturday's better, but such a great day for a winter storm to move in. If you're a winter weather fan, I'm biased to winter weather. If you're a new viewer and you're like, dude, why is this dude talking like he just loves winter weather? It causes travel issues, this, that, and that. Listen, I'm a winter weather fan, so I'm always gonna hype it up. Right? Not in a way where I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen that's not forecast to happen, but you get what I'm saying. But this brings heavy snow into central South Carolina, especially upstate South Carolina. You begin to mix, though, here. Not a forecast. This could definitely change. And this is just one model output. You go from snow to like just a wintry mix in Atlanta. This shows the pink is actually freezing rain. The orange is sleet, which is just kind of jumbling it up all together, which looks weird. Nashville, you're getting all snow. The latest GFS wants to try to have mixing issues in the northern Alabama. You're hanging on to freezing rain, Atlanta to Columbia, almost down to Augusta. And then it just turns into a nasty, on the GFS, kind of a nasty freezing rain event. Kind of like a hybrid Miller A, Miller B type setup. All snow up here in Kentucky, even snow getting all the way up into the Midwest, Ohio Valley. I mean, this would hit, say, northeast Tennessee pretty good. Eastern Kentucky. This would hit up here in West Virginia. And this is just an ongoing ice storm now for the northwest corner of South Carolina into the Piedmont, North Carolina. And then it tries to switch into all rain on the back end of this. And it does get a winter storm up into the mid-Atlantic. It just doesn't crawl up the coast like the runs from overnight into yesterday evening. But it does get heavy snow all the way up into the mid-Atlantic, into the northeast, and then that's all she wrote. Now, what about the latest Euro? And this is going to be new to me, so we're going to break it down on the fly. Starting it off once again, the wee hours in the morning Friday, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Here it comes. And this is mid-morning Friday, early mid-morning, depending on where you live. And this is bringing snow into northern Alabama. Now, what we noticed on the Euro back into the south-central U.S., it was further south with the winter weather. Let's see if that translates to the east. On the Euro, it has freezing rain as far south as like Columbus, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama. It definitely has solid winter weather all the way to Birmingham. We move it one more frame. We got winter weather starting to move into Atlanta. This looks like a wintry mix to maybe more so snow. All snow for Huntsville, Florence, and wintry mix in the Birmingham. This is midday. And then we go one more frame. And one would argue that that's all snow in Columbia, but it could be all rain. But this is moving snow into the upstate of South Carolina. This is heavy snow into northern Alabama, northern Georgia. The snow's starting to get up to Kentucky. It's taking over Tennessee. And we move one more frame here. And, it looks like the Midlands right on that rain snow line. So I'm here in Columbia, South Carolina, like, dude, come on, man, let this be all snow. But one thing with Weather Bell, it does this weird thing where it like lightens up the precipitation between the transition zone of precipitation. But this would actually be heavy snow in the blue. But man, this is a heavy wintry mix in Atlanta. Just north, it's all snow. If not Atlanta, all snow. This is a big front end thumping of snow. This is getting in the Friday evening into the upstate of South Carolina and southwest North Carolina. Look at the light to moderate snow beginning to move into, northeast sections of Tennessee. And man, check this out. This looks wild to me. This is a pretty big front end thumping of snow moving into the northern section of South Carolina. Heavy snow starting to move into Charlotte. You go another frame here. And, it starts to switch to some ice in the northern sections of South Carolina. But this is just heavy snow up here in the Piedmont, North Carolina. Extreme northwest sections of South Carolina. Ice back here in Georgia. Still wintry mix in northern Alabama. All snow up pretty much for Tennessee up into Kentucky. And you continue to move forward here. And, so I would say that, if you compare this with, say, the run overnight, let's see what it shows. It's more precipitation, I will tell you that. And let's look at that. It doesn't look like the temperatures change. Don't do that. Come on, man. We were on a roll there. If we look at that, let's look at that and compare it. This is for late Friday evening. The latest the latest, I would say, Euro is about the same. It looks warmer at first, but then it stays about the same throughout the rest of the system. So, one thing I'll mention, and I'll stop it right here, is the fact that I think models are underdoing the cold air. And the reason I say that is because, one, cold air damming setups, because I think some of this cold air source will be driven off some cold air damming, cold air getting trapped east of the Alps, and the fact that we have snowpack up here to the north. I think that models are going to have a hard time figuring out how cold, the true extent of the cold in the Carolinas especially. And I just think that model guidance is probably going to trend just a little bit colder because of that. Another thing is because we're going to have, over the next 3 days, a very cold stretch of days. So, to me, that tells me that I think this is going to be a little bit colder than what models will show. But, it stays all winter weather in northern Georgia, the upstate of South Carolina. So pretty wild stuff, guys. This is, and hey, it turns into a winter weather event for the Mid-Atlantic, and it looks like I would say the moisture is getting a little bit more juiced up. This would turn to an icing event for eastern North Carolina Saturday morning, and then it wraps up. So there's a lot going on. The Canadian model is just full send. Here it comes on just an ice storm for a good chunk of Mississippi. Central and northern Alabama. It says, what do you mean snow? Let's just dump a ton of freezing rain on you. And I just think it's a little bit of an outlier. It does start off as snow in the upstate of South Carolina, western North Carolina, but it really brings a lot of ice even into southern Tennessee. And then it just turns it into a raging ice storm from Birmingham to Atlanta to Columbia, and it just is a nasty ice scenario. This is all heavy snow up here in North Carolina and Tennessee. That orange is heavy sleet, and then we continue to progress this forward. And it stays all frozen precipitation, say in Columbia to Florence to, heck, even eastern North Carolina. And check out the wraparound snow, which is something that we'll figure out in time. There is a lot of wraparound snow that could potentially fall with this system. So that's something we'll have to watch as time goes by. But one thing I'll show you is the Icon model. The Icon model had a lot of people excited this morning when we woke up and it ran. The Icon model here, if you're in northern Alabama, you're probably not going to be a fan of this because it switches you from rain to snow. But it wants to start off as snow here for like the low country of South Carolina, southeast Georgia. And then we go one more frame here, and it brings just a band of heavy snow from the Midlands of South Carolina to the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia, northern Alabama, into the Piedmont of North Carolina, into Tennessee. And then it switches, it just stays all snow up here for North Carolina, and South Carolina starts to switch to a wintry mix. And I will switch this to say a little bit further north so my friends in North Carolina could see this in other states. But let's progress this forward. And here it comes. That's an all-out snowstorm. From almost Atlanta to Greenville, Spartanburg to Charlotte. That's all snow. Snow. It doesn't even switch it to any kind of wintry mix. So the icon says, hey, all snow. So just things to watch for. And like I said, I just think that it's very close to going up the coastline. I just think that this is going to be a little bit colder than what some of the models are showing. I could be wrong. Euro AI model, you got to throw it a bone. It has been locked into this scenario while the Euro, the GFS, all these other models been kind of farting around, going back and forth. 1 minute it's dry, 1 minute it's overamped. The Euro AI model has been locked in. That 0 degrees Celsius line, remember this only, for whatever reason, they don't have this upgraded. It only shows in just precipitation. So it's not going to show the pretty blues and the pinks and the purples and stuff like that. It's just going to show moisture. But, you stop it right here. This is a ton of moisture, right? So you look at this frame. This is about midday Friday. And then you look at temperatures that's underlapping this moisture. And, you're in the low 30s in central South Carolina, low 30s in most of Georgia. And the precipitation is just moving in. Well below freezing up in areas of North Carolina, certainly in Tennessee and Kentucky. And then once again, you flip it back to this and you look at the next frame here. And low pressure, not favorable for everybody. Definitely not. But then you switch it back to this, and this is like Friday evening. You look at temperatures again. Columbia's below freezing. Atlanta's around the freezing mark. So the Euro AI model almost keeps the entire event below freezing. even for like areas outside of the favored areas of like the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia, and Western South Carolina. Like my I-20 corridor people, heck, it wants this entire system to just about be frozen. So there's definitely some things to consider. And I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to put what I want in front of what I'm trying to forecast here, but or talk about here. But I just really think it'll be colder than what some of these models show. Now let's look at the latest Euro ensemble guidance, and dang, that stinks. We almost had the 06Z Euro in frame here, but we don't. So we're gonna have to look at the 00Z frame. It wants to dump, I would say, a 2 to almost 5 inch snowfall average. Remember, the Euro ensemble combines about 51 members together and then creates an average of all these members. So your average between all these members is a few to several inches in Tennessee, Kentucky, a little bit less. But the thing that's impressive to me, and we've already talked about Mississippi, but the thing that's impressive to me is northern Alabama and northern Georgia and the upstate of South Carolina. I think North Carolina could increase. I mean, Atlanta, you're over a 2-inch snowfall mean now. Birmingham, same thing. Once you get to Huntsville and Alabama, Huntsville and Florence, Alabama, and all surrounding areas, I mean, that's like a 4 to 5 inch snowfall average. Greenville, Spartanburg, you're over 2 inches. Some areas over 3. Even Columbia, I mean, a 1-inch snowfall average. Charlotte, over 2 inches. Once you get into eastern North Carolina, it gets a little bit fuzzier here because of low pressure placement. But there's a little bit of a spike in the mid-Atlantic here. So that's something to watch for. But it's a pretty impressive average as far as snow. Once upon a time, I didn't think this had a chance to be a snowstorm for these areas. But here we are talking about it. And you compare this with the latest GFS ensemble, you notice it's further north, just like it was for the Southern Plains if you tune into that area. So it really still hits northern Alabama, northern Georgia pretty hard, the upstate of South Carolina, but I would say that snow line isn't as far south. But Tennessee, man, I mean, the entire state has over a 5-inch snowfall average. And even Kentucky gets more snow in this scenario. And it's a pretty impressive snowfall mean, though, still for northern Georgia, the upstate of South Carolina, northern Alabama, and not as much for the I-20 corridor. But, you can mix with ice. And I will just kind of show you the Canadian ensemble. And it is just a lot more flatter with this system. For example, it has an 1.5 inch snowfall average in Columbia and remains about the same for all those other areas. The I-20 corridor region, as far as snow, you would like this a little bit more. And it gives you a little bit more love across the entire state of like North Carolina with this. Now, if you're looking at the icing average, it's still just a footprint of ice from Birmingham to Atlanta to Columbia up to Charlotte to Raleigh. It really drops off. I'm not going to try to pull up the graphic for North Carolina any more than that, but it drops off once you get into VA. But there is a footprint of ice that is possible with this. Not a very strong signal, but a few 100ths of an inch of ice to over 1/10 of an inch of ice is possible. It's going to trend to more ice, more rain, more snow. Just not quite sure. And then the latest, say, Euro run here, it definitely dropped off the snow a little bit to the south. Like if you compare this and say like this is the latest run, right? So if you compare this run and you look at the OOZ, it's further south with the snow. It is. Admittedly, it is. So that's something to watch for. Are we ticking towards the GFS, to a more amped system? Or we not? But I will tell you, it increased the snow into North Carolina. So I just, like I said, I think this is going to go back and forth still with the cold and warm trends. And also just think that, in general, the models are going to underdo the cold. I mean, I just really think they are. So the latest Euro drops off the snow a little bit in Columbia, keeps it about the same in northern Georgia and northern Alabama. But we'll have to see if this starts to get cut off a little bit more for these areas too. So the GFS run, it just has the heaviest stuff further north, but it does show you a solid kind of front end band into the western Carolinas. Even all the way down to Columbia, it drops an inch of snow on you. That's not a forecast. Not a forecast. I mean, I would love an inch of snow. That would just be if I got an inch of snow in Columbia, which is where I live, guys, I would be just in hog heaven. I know that's pathetic, but that's how desperate your boy is for a little bit of snow. But anyways, let's see if the Euro ensembles is in range. Let's see. It runs pretty quick. Okay, so it looks like it is. It's only out to 12Z though. So it's still pumping out at a 1 inch snowfall average. And this is the Saturday morning, which I would say the storm is still wrapping up, especially for this area right here, but still pumping out an inch snowfall average. And it is still a heavy, heavy hit for northern Georgia, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and still a nice sizable event for Tennessee. Now, if you compare this frame, let's say the OOZ, it actually is further north. So it's funny, then this happens. The operational run does not completely match the movement of the Euro Ensemble run. So you look at that, that's from overnight, and then you look at this. You see that little bit of a tick south. It's not much. Like, for example, look at this area just south of Atlanta. Okay, 1.3, right? And then we look at the latest run, 1.7. It's a little bit of an increase. And it's the same thing around like the Aiken, Augusta area. Look at the little bump up here. Boom. And we got a little bit more of the run. There it is. So now we're all the way out to about the length of the event for the Southeast. And, you know, I want to just look at northern Alabama. Yeah, it increased. I mean, look, this is the run last night for northern Alabama. You're kind of in the 4-inch range. The run this morning, the Euro Ensemble, over 5 inches. So it's trending towards a winter storm for a lot of areas, even areas closer to the I-20 corridor. With once upon a time, like back over the weekend, I thought that it had no chance. And that's my fault. And that's me trying to learn. I shouldn't swing one way or the other. And this could swing back into a disaster for winter weather fans. But we're learning here as we go. So let's look at the final frame here. And hopefully I have the 06Z in range. Dang, that stinks, man. We were golden for a second. But this is last night's run. And that stinks. I was really hoping we were going to get that. This is last night's run of the OOZ. Probability of total snowfall over an inch. So I know the key down here is going to be very small for you folks. You're going to have to put on your super bifocals. But if you live in this kind of burgundy red color, that's a 90 to 100% chance to get an inch of snow between now and the weekend. If you live in, say, and this is including Atlanta, in this orange area, I mean, the Euro Ensemble is saying, hey, there's an 80 to 90% chance. Well, I'm sorry, the red is a 90-100. The orange is like an 80 to 90. And then you start to get into like the Greenville-Spartanburg area. I mean, this is like a 70 to 80% chance to see an inch of snow. I mean, it's showing like northern Alabama and then central and eastern areas of Tennessee a lot to get an inch of snow, and even all the way up into the Apps. But what's impressive to me is the I-20 corridor people, like Birmingham to Atlanta, that's got over a 50% chance to get an inch of snow. Even Columbia, for example, has like a 40 to 50% chance to get an inch of snow. So this is pretty impressive stuff. And what's wild to me is it's kind of dropped off back here, and it's increased into this area. And you look at the run prior to this, and you can see, like, this is the run like yesterday afternoon. This is the run last night. And then this is the run overnight. See how it's came down, and we're still not in range of the latest one. So that stinks. So we don't know if the trend is going to continue, but it's a pretty impressive stuff, guys. Now, for my folks up here in the Northeast, I will kind of really quickly go through this, but this is Saturday morning. The GFS, brings a snowstorm up through, say, Washington, D.C., even a quick hitting snowstorm for like Philadelphia, Baltimore, even into Long Island, New York, but it really misses the connection here for southern New England as we get into Saturday evening. And I'll be honest, the latest Euro it is worse. It's the latest European model, and I'm pulling for you guys too. I am. But the latest Euro overnight is a miss. It's just light snow, does not connect the dots for you guys. So just a quick update for the Northeast. But as far as the little pieces of energy out here that we're watching, and this is the latest Euro, okay? And really what we're watching here is we're going to move this forward. As far as energy in the atmosphere, this is our main piece of energy. This is our northern stream of energy. Now watch how they connect kind of into here, right? Okay. There's a connection right here. They kind of begin to phase together. And then as they do, this turns into a stronger storm system. Okay. Now, you're probably thinking, well, all the precipitation is way back here. That's not true. This is kind of a system that's digging. So it's like this, and all your precipitation is actually getting slung out in this area right over here. But in general, if you're looking at energy in the atmosphere, this is our system right here. And on the latest Euro, it is still kind of flat, but it's trending a little bit less flat, okay? But it's still very flat. The GFS is still, like you look at the GFS as far as this energy, the GFS is still just trying to wrap it together, but I would say the GFS is trending to less flat too. It's a good news for some, bad news for others. For example, the fact that this is phasing later does not help out you folks in the south central U.S. That phase in the right time for like Texas, Oklahoma, really Texas, is putting an injection of cold air. So basically, the more that this area up here lags to connect with this area right here in the southern plains, the less cold air you're going to have to work with. If this connects further east, then you're going to have a more favorable setup for the southeast because it injects cold air at the right timing, doesn't allow the system to overamp and really cut. So that's why it's trended a tick less favorable for snow in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's over for you guys, but as far as cold air sources, you look kind of the same thing, right? And as you're moving forward, it shows the energy too. It's like this is our main system. You see this one little area right here that's about to emerge on your screen? Watch how that pops up. That is our injection of cold air. That's our little northern stream energy that kind of drops down, merges with the system, kind of injects some cold air into it. And then we have some energy right here. Now, this is something to really watch. So this emerging of kind of the white, that is an injection of cold air too. I would say that's actually our true cold air source of this system. At least initially, this kind of comes down, connects. You see the blue that shows up, it's lower pressure. This injects cold air into all this energy down here. Shows up, there's a little bit of connection to the Arctic, little just shot of cold air. And then you mix that with this 50-50 low up here. This is still trying to bring some cold air east of the Alps. So we got energy moving in, cold air filtering down, shot of cold air coming down. And we kind of have two, I would say, weaker sources of cold air because this main trough is heading on out. So we're losing our cold air source from like the trough over the northeast, but we still have this injection of cold air right here. And this bottom arrow is our energy coming down. So it's kind of like multiple sources of cold air that are kind of trying to work together to bring a winter storm for areas of the southeast. Hope that makes sense. Let's talk about today's weather real quick. It's pretty quiet. It does show snow across Texas. I don't know if that's hitting the ground. I don't think it is. A little bit of northwest flow action coming down, and we got some snow ongoing across eastern Colorado, so you're getting a little bit of snow in like Denver, I believe. A little bit of moisture in California. Haven't seen a lot of that, but that's what's going on right now. As far as the weather for the southeast today, not a lot of it. You got Arctic air in place. It's getting cold, setting the stage for this winter storm that's going to move in later this week. But there ain't a drop or flake of anything unless you live in the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, or maybe later tonight you can get some northwest flow flurries or light snow. Now the northeast, a little bit of snow in the interior northeast region. Some snow showers are possible, some lake effect snow bands off Ontario and really Erie. Outside of that, guys, it's just cold and there ain't a whole lot going on. The south central U.S., we got the snow up here in the central high plains. Some snow could enter western Kansas, snow across eastern Colorado. Some of the snow will try to make it this evening all the way to the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. And then you can start to see the bubbling up of our moisture in New Mexico and western Texas. And this is kind of the beginning stages of our winter storm starting to show up. The north central U.S., lake effect snow off Lake Huron, down to the upper portions of Lake Michigan. This will drop few to maybe even several inches of snow because it's so cold. But everybody else, quiet. Western U.S., besides that snow I just mentioned for Colorado, it's pretty quiet. A little bit of energy trying to move into the Pacific Northwest, but outside that, not a whole lot going on. Now, temperatures today, cold, Arctic air. Sub-freezing highs for Tennessee, maybe even down the Mississippi Delta area. You can tell that the atmosphere is getting locked and loaded for something as far as cold air. Cold in these regions, and then we look out west, and this is what we're looking like. Pretty cold out west, too. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and we'll do it again tonight.